today I want to talk about why we care so much about what other people think and how we can stop. This fear of judgment that we have, this worry that people are going to think something about us that we don't want them to think. They're going to have a perception of us that we don't want them to have. This fear holds us back from living our life because a lot of times we won't take risks. We won't say what's on our mind. We won't be true to ourselves. We won't follow our dreams. We won't be and do who we are and live our life, our best life. We're afraid that anything that we do or say could be construed by a certain person in a certain way, and that will give us a feeling that we hate to have, that washes over us, that makes us feel uncomfortable and shame and guilt and dirty and ugly and abandoned and rejected and criticized and judged. And we just don't want to have that feeling, so we stay small in our lives and we don't live our best life and be who we can become. This has been one of my biggest challenges ever since I was probably a teenager, caring what other people think. You want them to have a good impression of you. You want them to know you're a good person. You want them to know that you're trying to do the right thing, or that you want to be friends. You want to have them like you. Now, a lot of time that we're in conflict because we want to be able to stand up for ourselves. We want to be able to speak our own truth. We want to be able to do what we want. We want to be able to say what we want, and we want things that aren't the same as other people. So these two things are in conflict a lot, right? We want to be able to speak our truth. We want to be authentic. We want to say what's on our mind. We also like to get our own way, right? We like things to go our way. And when we advocate for ourselves, when we speak our mind, when we stand up for ourselves, when we do things to benefit ourselves, a lot of times other people get upset. You do want to speak your mind, and you do want your own way, and you do want to stand up for yourself, but you also want people to like you. So there's a real people pleaser mentality that is in conflict. Your authentic being is in conflict with your people pleaser being. Okay, and this is what creates a lot of conflict, drama, and tension in your own mind and heart. People pleasers want others to like them. They want others to feel good. They want others to think that they're a good person. They want others to say good things about them. They want others to be their friend. They want others to support them. They want others to think of them in a good light. And even if they do something that the other person doesn't like, they want others to understand where they were coming from and they accept them. So these are the types of conflicts that play out when you are both a people pleaser and you want people to like you, and when you are an authentic human being who deeply has their own thoughts and feelings and very strong ideas of what is good for you and what is right and wrong for you. Often when you are that type of person, when you're both of these types of people, you are at conflict with yourself. I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism here. So just a warning about perfectionism. Some people think that when they're doing the inner work and the inner healing work, they take it too far and they think, okay, I'm going to please everybody and I'm going to be a perfectionist. Meaning if I'm perfect, if I can get it perfect, if I can get it right, if I can always be perfect, then nobody will have a reason to judge me. Nobody will have a reason not to like me. So people strive to be perfect, and this perfectionistic tendency is what makes us sick, is what keeps us always in fight or flight mode, always stressed, because we can never be perfect. And when our ideal is to strive to be perfect so that we can never get it wrong, so that people will always like us and nobody will ever judge us, when we go to the other side, the other extreme like this, well, therefore, if I need to do the work on myself, I'm just going to work on being perfect. And when we have this perfectionist tendency, when we strive to be perfect, we drain ourselves. We drain our energy. We're doing it for somebody. We're doing it for approval, not for ourselves, but from the world. And we can never live up to the world. There's billions of people in the world. We'll never get it right. We can never be perfect enough or do enough. And this is what really weighs down people and can make them sick, can bring on things like chronic pain, chronic illness, chronic symptoms, because we're trying so hard to get it perfect so that we're liked, so that we can avoid the feeling of judgment and criticism. The truth is, we can never make people feel or think a certain way. We can never make people like us. We can never make people think a certain way about us. And we can never make it so that they don't feel a certain way, harbor resentments, judge us, criticize us, or think poorly of us in any way, unless we give up our own selves and completely lay down and please these people. And even then, they might judge us for being weak and having no backbone and having no personality and still not like you. So you are never, ever, literally ever, going to please people who just don't like you. Sometimes you want them to so badly, especially if you have loved them in the past, if you've been friends with them in the past, if you've had a relationship in the past that's been good. Often you do something to upset them. You've said your side of it, you've apologized, whatever, and they can't let it go. And you can't let the feeling that washes over you go every time you see them or every time you think about them. What must they be thinking of me? Why are they judging me? How can I make this right? I hate this feeling of being abandoned, this feeling of being judged, this feeling of being criticized, this feeling of being not liked, right? It stays with us, it washes over us, and it destroys our own personal energy field. So for those of you who have ever felt this way, you know what I'm talking about. Your energy field now feels icky, sticky, negative. You feel shame. You feel feelings of shame, sadness, guilt, anger, resentment, jealousy. All of these feelings are negative vibrations, low vibrational energies that keep us stuck in our life and unable to move forward. So even when the person isn't saying something bad to you, your mind is playing around, and it's your mind, it's your actual mind that won't let it go. You're having conversations with yourself inside your head. You are circling back around on the same conversations. You're replaying them. You're changing them. You're enhancing them. Oh, the circular loop is this. In your mind, you are searching for reasons. What are they thinking? What is that person thinking about me? Okay, so you're literally asking yourself that person. Do they like me? Do they judge me? Do they criticize? What are they thinking about me? What do they think about the situation? And because that question can never be answered, it's an unanswerable question. You can never know. You can never know the answer to that. So because you can never know this answer, your brain goes on a loop, because the brain always is on a loop. Your nervous system is constantly on a loop to search for answers. So your brain will search forever for the answer to that question. And since it cannot find it, and the brain hates not finding answers to its most pressing questions, the brain will make them up. This is where you get into those scenarios that you have. You imagine what they say to you. You imagine what you say back. You are making up the answer to the question that you're asking. What are they thinking about me? What are they thinking about and feeling about this situation? And what does that mean for our friendship or our relationship or whatever that may be? And your brain always makes up a negative answer in order to try to protect you. This is what the brain does. It wants to protect you. So if it comes up with a negative answer, like they really don't like me, they think poorly of me, they don't never want to be my friend again, then you're protected. Because if that is the worst case scenario, you've now just protected yourself against it by giving you that worst case scenario to rehearse in your head. Then therefore it feels that you're armed and ready if that person ever is to say those things to you in real life, or the confrontation is to come to a head in real life, or you do get into a situation where you're face to face and this is what they think and this is what they say, then you've already rehearsed what you're going to say and how you're going to react. So therefore it thinks it's protecting you. The problem with this is our mind will just go round and round because it won't stop. They will say something else in your mind to you, and then you will think, why did they think that? And you will make up your own answer. And in your mind, they will say something else, and then in your mind, you will think, why do they think that? And then you will make up your own answer, and you will make up your own scenarios ad nauseum, round and round, that can never stop because you are trying to avoid feeling the way you feel, that washing over, that shame, the guilt, your part in it, your anger, your resentment, your sadness, right? Whatever it is, you're resisting actually feeling the feeling. So step number 1, what can you do about it? Feel the feeling. They don't like me. Just sit with that feeling. Sit with it. So what? Okay, they don't like me. Now what? Answer the question in the negative and say, they don't like me, and they never will. And it doesn't matter what I say or do, they won't like me. Now sit with that feeling that washes over you. Are you going to die? No. How will your life really change? How will you really be impacted? What if you just accept that they don't like you and they never will like you? And it's just a known fact. This is a known fact. This person from your past who once meant something to you now no longer likes you and will never like you. Can you just accept that? Can you let it go? Can you be like, okay, I'm going to stop trying now. Stop trying to fix this because I already know it can't be fixed. And can you just sit with that feeling and stay with the feeling long enough to let that feeling go? And if you haven't seen my video on letting go, if you're sitting with that feeling, then go watch the video of how taking the steps to let go. And we work on letting go of the feeling, not of the person, not of the situation, not of everything else. The feeling that we actually are desperately trying to avoid, right? Doing everything in our power so that we can escape this terrible feeling of abandonment, shame, guilt, isolation, whatever it is. Judgment. And just be with that feeling. Okay, because this really has nothing to do with them, and it really has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your feelings that you're afraid to feel. So if we face those feelings head on, not the situation, not what you said, she said, they said, not the situation, not the experience, not anything about it, not the person, but the feeling. We heal it for all situations, for all feelings. We heal our past. We heal all the people that don't like us when we heal this feeling. We heal the feeling inside because we forgive ourselves. We love ourselves. We come to peace with ourselves. We are able to let go of the feeling, to allow it to exist, to allow it to be there, and to know that we're still okay. When we can work with this feeling in that way, then we heal the feeling, we heal ourselves, and then things don't bother us so much. Not with only that person, but with all the people that we get that feeling around, because we know how to work with the feeling. We know how to accept the feeling, and we know how to love ourselves and accept ourselves and love ourselves and befriend ourselves. Therefore, we're okay. The other thing you can do, number 2, is because the question can never be answered with accuracy about what are they thinking about me, you can make up something good, okay? You can make up the best case scenario. You can say, that person likes me. That person thinks I'm okay. When you play the scenario in your head, you can make up a good response. You can imagine whatever you want. So you can imagine it in a good way. You can just decide that they like you, that the situation's resolved, that they understand you, that there's no more need for defending or going around over and over this situation, you can decide to insert anything into that question. What must they think of me? Are they judging me? No. Do they like me? Yes. Do they think I'm a good person? Yep. You can insert whatever you want. And when you say it enough, you will believe it. When you really go through those scenarios and when you answer those questions with a positive every time, you can say, yes, they do like me. Why wouldn't they? I'm a nice person and I'm always kind to them. And then you can continue to embody the person that you believe that you are and that you've made up that they think you are. And eventually, people will the embodiment of what you believe will come into existence, will come true. So if you believe you're a good person, if you believe you're kind, if you believe you're forgiven, if you believe they forgive you, if you believe everything's okay, if you believe they like you, if you believe they think highly of you, then they will to you. And whether they do or don't is not really the issue, but if you feel like they do inside, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna feel a lot better. The feeling that you have inside is everything's okay, I'm okay, there's nothing wrong here, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's time for me to let this go because it's all resolved. And if you resolve it within yourself, then it is resolved. So sometimes, literally, it is just a decision. It's just a decision on your part. You decide to think the best. You decide to believe that somebody thinks the best of you, that they are giving you the benefit of the doubt, and that they are believing what you want them to believe, they are understanding what you want them to understand, and that all is well. It's just a decision sometimes that you personally have to make. If you haven't seen my video on shadow work, go check that out, okay? But when you get into Jungian psychology, everyone has a shadow. So usually when somebody's judging you, when they're criticizing you, and when they're looking at you and judging you in a certain way, they have a certain perception of you that you don't want them to have. But when they do, they have this judgment of you. It's actually not about you at all. So this is the first thing to really take in and understand. It's about them, okay? We judge what we deny in ourselves. It's always subconsciously about them. They don't know that it is. They think it's about you, but it's really the aspect of themselves that they've rejected in themselves, that they don't want to be like, that they are afraid maybe they are like. They've rejected this part in themselves because they fear it makes them a bad person. Therefore, they're hypercritical when they see it in others, okay? And instead of looking deep inside them and realizing that it's about them, it's about their own internal feelings, about the way they feel about something, or who they are, or what they've done in a situation. But when they can deny that and push it outward and blame you or criticize you or judge you, instead of looking within, they feel better about themselves, right? Because they're denying, they don't like that. They never want to be like that, and they might be afraid that they are. Therefore, they judge others to hide their own shadow self. So for those of you who are new to shadow work and who haven't really followed Jungian psychology and who haven't done a lot of this inner healing work, that just may be a concept that's really hard for you to grasp and that you really don't get. So watch it again, watch that video, and just know and trust that it really isn't about you. It is subconsciously all about them. When someone judges you and when someone criticizes you and when someone thinks badly about you, it's really their own insecurities that they deep down have about themselves, and the judgments and criticisms and worries and whatever that they have about themselves, insecurities that they project outward onto other people, so that they don't have to feel it about themselves. It helps themselves feel better, but it's never really about you, because if they didn't have these own insecurities and these own deep wounds or feelings within themselves and judging and harshly criticizing themselves a lot of the time, these people are usually hypercritical, hyper judgmental of themselves, and that's therefore why they judge others, right? It really doesn't have anything to do with you. It's this inner criticism and judgment that they do feel for themselves. That's why it's also important to know that when you criticize and judge others, When you criticize and judge others, you can be certain that it's because you are judging and criticizing yourself. So if you can stop the self-criticism, if you can stop the self-judgment, stop being so hard on yourself, stop saying negative things to yourself all the time. If you can stop judging yourself, being mean to yourself, hating yourself, saying bad things to yourself, judging yourself, if you can stop this internal self-loathing and self-judging and self-criticizing that you do to yourself, then you will stop judging other people. So know that this works both ways. And the answer is always, always to work on yourself. It's always to make peace with yourself. It's always to give yourself a break, to love yourself, to reach out your hand to yourself. And when you accept yourself and when you love yourself, you can accept and love others, and the same goes for them. But the reason why you can't stop their judgments and their criticisms is because you can't do that self-work for them, right? You can't help them stop criticizing and judging themselves, right? That is a self job, just like they can't do it for you. And so the only thing that anyone can do in this world is work on themselves, accept themselves, love themselves, stop criticizing themselves, stop judging themselves, just be who you are in full love and acceptance of who you are and who you want to be in this world, and have that be enough. And that's how we heal each other. That's how we heal the world. That's how we heal ourselves. That's how we heal situations and experiences. That's how we move forward in our life and be able to live the best life that we can, right? We can't live it with self-judgment and self-criticism, and we can't live that when we're weighed down, by our own self-energy. All right, so no matter whose fault it is, no matter who needs to do the work, we still hate the feeling of judgment. Even if it is all about the other person and we can understand that conceptually, we still fear it. We still hate that others would think poorly of us or think something we don't want them to think about us, or have a perception of us that isn't true, or that we wish they didn't have, or we still fear this criticism and judgment, and we still fear that they will abandon us and take away their love and all of this. We still fear it, even if we can understand this. So what we need to realize here is that we're only afraid of things that are close to our hearts, of things that we're still insecure about in ourselves, of things that we're still working on in ourselves. Because if somebody judged you on something that you were totally confident on and secure in, and you were feeling good about, it wouldn't bother you, right? It just would roll off you. You wouldn't even take it in. But it's when somebody criticizes or judges you about something and it really stings, it really hurts, we really don't want them to think or feel that way, it's because we're still working on that within ourselves. They've hit a tender spot. They've hit one of our wounds. They've hit a spot that makes us feel, I'm still working on that. I'm still not sure that, I believe this about myself, or I'm still not sure, I have work to do in this area, and you're pointing it out, you're shining a spotlight on it, and I'm really embarrassed and insecure. It's like if you have this whole body and you're super insecure about a pimple on your nose that everyone else has said, it's no big deal, no one can even see it, but you go out and somebody walks up to you and shines this flashlight right on that pimple and says, I see your pimple. You feel embarrassed, you feel caught, you feel singled out, they've magnified something and made it even bigger, right? They've pointed out the one thing that you feared most, which was that you feel insecure and people aren't going to like you because of this pimple, and you're trying to do everything you can to make it go away, and you don't want it there, and you wish it would go away, and somebody walks right up to you and shines a spotlight on it. That's what this is like. But if you were totally confident and you didn't care about pimples at all, and it didn't bother, like that was not something that made you feel small or made you feel bad about yourself in any way, if you were the type of person who never got pimples and nobody ever rejected you because of a pimple, and you had a really strong self-image of yourself and you got a pimple on your nose one day and somebody shined a spotlight on it, you might laugh and say, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that pimple there. Like, it wouldn't bother you. The spotlight would just, and then they would just take it off your nose because they would realize, like, hey, she doesn't care about that. And so it would just pass. It would just go away, right? But it's the things that bother us most. If somebody picks up on that and criticizes or judges us for things that are tender within us, things that we're working on within ourselves, right? We haven't been able to come to terms with our own wounds or heal our own wounds from the past. We haven't been able to sit with our own shame, our own guilt, our own sadness, our own grief, our own angers, our own insecurities, right within ourselves. That has nothing to do about the situation at all, but it brings up those old wounds. It brings up these old wounds that haven't been healed within ourselves, that really even has nothing to do about this person or this situation, but it's just like shining a spotlight on the bigger wounds that lay underneath that we really haven't fully healed yet. So it's just an indicator to us on what we need to work on and what still isn't healed, and where we need to be able to sit with those feelings and heal those deeper feelings of hopelessness, abandonment, grief, sadness, right? Loneliness, these deeper wounds within us that really are beneath and bigger than this person or this situation. They're deeper than that, and they're not healed, and that's why this bothers us so much. These are deeper wounds, deeper insecurities, right? Like if you've had low self-esteem, right? If you've always had this low self-esteem, you don't think you're good enough, you don't measure up, right? You have deeper issues about your own self, your own ability to be loved, deeper issues of abandonment. You have a grief that hasn't been healed. You feel like you don't measure up. You haven't been able to attain your own level of success, or, you know, these are problems within the self that need to be healed. They're deeper wounds that we need to look at. And this is just pointing out the fact that, you know, we don't feel good about ourselves yet. And that's why when people shine a spotlight on our biggest insecurities or our biggest fears or our biggest wounds from the past, we're trying to fix a situation, or we're trying to fix what someone thinks of us, or we're trying to, and it's the wrong thing. It's the wrong thing. That's not what needs healing, right? The thing that needs healing is inside, how you feel about yourself, right? The deeper wounds that are within that need to be healed in order for you to feel good about yourself and self-loved and self-accepted, and to be able to just be who you are and have that be enough and okay. So that's really what needs healing. If you're so bothered and you can't let go of other people's judgments and criticisms, then we need to take a deeper look, because the problem isn't with them. The problem isn't with that situation. The problem is what you're hanging on to and your perception of what their judgment means to you inside. It's what the meaning that you give it. And why do you give it a certain meaning? Is because it's pointing to a deeper wound that needs to be healed. Like, I'm not good enough. We give it a meaning. I'm not good enough. And so that's the wound that needs to be healed. The deeper wound inside, right? We can only heal that by giving ourselves love, by giving ourselves acceptance, by allowing ourselves to forgive ourselves, to be okay with ourselves. And that's really what it comes down to. That's really what it is about. So going back to the example of the pimple on your nose, you know, if you clean up and you go back and you heal your inner insecurities about, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, people won't accept me for who I am, I'm not as good as they are, right? If we heal our own insecurities, and we do the self-work and the self-love, and we become okay with ourselves just how we are, and we really begin to heal that aspect and that wound that we have inside that comes from way before this incident or way before this person shined the judgment on you, right? This is a deeper wound that needs to be healed. And when we heal that, when we're okay with ourselves and we are okay with our own self-image and our own body image, we feel accepted, we feel like we like ourselves, then when we go back out into the world and someone shines a light on our pimple, it doesn't bother us anymore because we're okay. It doesn't bother us. So it's always about doing the own work. And then someone says something to you or shines a spotlight on something. If it's healed, it's just a minor spotlight, like, oh yeah, I do have a pimple. Huh. We look at that, we take it in for a moment, and then we move on with our lives. Right, but if someone shines a spotlight on this pimple and we hide then from society, we ruminate on it, we go over and over, we look in the mirror at it, we say we're not good enough, what are we gonna do about this pimple? We obsess on it, right? We play these scenarios over and over in our head. We're afraid of this judgment. We really have work to do within ourselves. We really have our own self-image to heal. So that's just an example. But this isn't about a pimple. This is about something much bigger, and it's when we fear the judgment of other people because of what the meaning of that, what we give it. And the reason we do that is because we have our own judgments and own self-criticisms and own wounds within us that actually need to be healed. So judgment is never about the other person. It's always about you. And from their end, it's always about them too. That's why they are doing the judging. So it's always, always, always that inner wounds need to be healed on both sides, and love and self-love and acceptance needs to be done. The healing work inside on both sides, right? We push judgment out when we're afraid. When we have it within ourselves, when we have wounds within ourselves, when we have parts of us that we're trying to deny or suppress or reject, then we push it out to the world. Okay, and when we take judgment in, it's just like we're going back to the hurts, the wounds, all the work that we need to do, the poor self-image of ourselves, the way that we think that we're not okay. We're not okay, if we're not liked by everyone. We're just not going to be okay in this world. We're not good enough. And so on both sides, judgment comes back to, you can't change what anyone else thinks of you. You'll never know what anyone else thinks of you. You might as well, think good things. But the most important part, the very, very most important thing that you can do is heal yourself. Give yourself love. Give yourself acceptance. Forgive yourself. Say sorry to yourself. Work on strengthening your own feeling within yourself. Do the work for yourself. You do the work for yourself. You change who you are as a person. You grow as a person. You do better inside. You forgive yourself. You love yourself. You accept yourself. You make it right with yourself. And it really has nothing to do with the other person. Sure, we want people to like us. We all want people to like us. That's human nature, right? We all want to be accepted by the tribe, loved by the tribe, be popular, have lots of friends, and feel accepted by the world. But it's always about really what we want. The reason why we want that is because we want to feel accepted by ourselves, inside our own hearts, inside our own mind. If we feel good about ourselves, if we feel like we are enough, then we are enough. If we feel good about ourselves and we love ourselves, if we forgive ourselves, if we accept ourselves, then that's always enough. I don't need to fix the world. I don't need to be perfect. I only need to be okay with myself, right? Am I okay with myself? Do I love myself? Can I forgive myself? Can I accept myself? And this is the healing work that we need to do. It's not being a better person. It's not perfecting ourselves. It's not attaining more and having more success and becoming prettier or skinnier or whatever it is that you think you need to do. It's becoming more of who you are. Just allowing yourself to be more seen, to be more vulnerable. The parts of you that you're afraid to be seen, just to let them out there. And when the judgment comes, to just allow that in, to just feel that and to be okay with it, and to know that you are you and it's okay. You can be you and you're still safe. You're still okay. You're still lovable. You're still good enough. right? You're still good enough. And the only person who can truly give you that is yourself. It matters what you think of you. Healing is always an inside job, and it starts and ends with you. So you have to be willing to feel these uncomfortable feelings, and you also have to be willing to grow from them, to heal the deeper things underneath, and to learn, and then to help it make you a better person in the world. You can't spend your time worrying about what other people think of you, right? And like I said, you can go through this video again. You can change what you believe that they think about you. You can put a positive spin on it. If your mind can never answer the question, then you can answer it for you in a better way. You can do your inner healing work. You can look inside. You can, say you're sorry. You can try to make amends and then just leave it at that. You don't go overboard. You don't try to people please forever. You don't try to be a perfectionist forever. You just grow from each experience, and you become more and more of who you want to be as a human being. And when you begin to like yourself more, accept yourself more, love yourself more, then it won't matter so much. We won't fear this criticism and judgment from others, because we're okay with ourselves. We're okay within ourselves, even if they don't like us, even if they do have it wrong, then we'll still be able to be okay. So it's really important that we learn to love ourselves. We learn to be with ourselves and our feelings, forgive ourselves, tell ourselves that we are enough, we are okay, and make the story better in your head, right? Believe what you want to be true and move forward. Just move forward, being and doing better for yourself and in the world and to the people around you. And that's all you can do. That is all you can do. And that's enough. And you are okay. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. And I will see you in the next video.